Ladies and gentlemen, are you surprised what I'm about to do? Once again, the leftists have shown themselves to be the masters of an ideology that is dark, dank, and utterly despicable. The latest outrage, of course, is that they've raided Mar-a-Lago, go after Donald Trump on basically bullshit charges. Of course, they go into the place. He doesn't, they go in. They don't allow lawyers to accompany them during the search to make sure that evidence isn't planted. So the fact that they excluded the lawyers, of course, kind of invalidates anything that they would find or place there themselves. Um, we'll see. And we can see that this is just a continuation of tactics used by the Chinese Communist Democrat Party, which is one organization. It's run by Xi Jinping and uses Xi Jinping approved methods. So-called corruption um, types of investigations are used to weed out your critics and political opponents in China. And it's no surprise that the Chinese Communist Democrat Party uses the same techniques in Beijing that they do in Mar-a-Lago. I mean, you can say, you know, say, well, what about Nancy Pelosi in Taiwan? And what about this? Well, that's a manufactured crisis. Communists, especially Chinese communists, and Vladimir Putin knows how to do it too, excel in propaganda, creating a melodrama whereby one person flies to a country and another country feigns outrage is well within the capacity of the Chinese Communist Party. Of course, they wish he went to Taiwan, and they pretended to get angry, and that was the whole point. Maybe she was handed off orders of highly sensitive nature that couldn't be transmitted over a Zoom call and sent back home. Just saying, it's possible. But the fact is, this depravity is not a surprise. The leftists have been doing stuff like this for years. They've always been perverts, by the way. It's little known. What was the first leftist government? Anybody know? Answer: French Revolution. Robespierre, those guys, Sassoon, the hangman, the guillotines. That's the first leftoid woke-tard state. In fact, Thomas Paine almost got himself killed over there. He was lucky to get out. He almost lost his head. But what else did they do in the French Revolution? Well, sure, they went after their traditional, more religious opponents, priests, nuns, clerics, that type of thing, churches. But they also legalized all forms of sodomy and incest. So in France, for many years, in fact, they recently just passed a law banning incest about a year or two ago. You can look it up. I didn't know that. Did you know that? That's one little fact that isn't taught in history school. In history, you won't find that in your child's history book. After all, I mean, if perverts were known to also be chopping people's heads off, that might make perverts look bad. Just saying. And what happened when the Soviets got into power? Well, Lenin kind of rejected the sort of monkeypox gay sex orgy cult. It was suggested that people be completely sexually free, and he said that being with a woman should be like drinking from a glass. And Lenin said, yes, but why drink from a glass that's touched many lips? He was a little taciturn about that. But they were liberalized. But one thing that they did do, that Stalin did, and this is a fact, you can research it, is during the course of the war, they wanted to make super soldiers. And so they got communist female fanatics to be impregnated by gorillas or chimpanzees in order to create a human-ape hybrid that would be more effective on the battlefield. They've always been perverts. Sexual perversion and leftoidism are linked. They always have been. And by the way, it's interesting, it's also worth noting that sex education was mandatory in the USSR. It's also worth noting that abortion was considered a human right there as well. So, I mean, these policies are imported directly from Moscow into our country, and the policy is identical. I had a family member who had to get political asylum from from Poland, communist country, under that was under Jaruzelski. She was going to be shot. Lech Walesa was running Solidarność, and we had to get her, and we got her out, and Reagan got her out. And she told me about it was the discussion about how they would do that, how they teach violence, how they indoctrinate. I mean, then they would set up these straw men, and they'd take AK-47s with bayonets and practice killing Americans. I mean, indoctrination's a thing. Same approach is being used in schools today. The left has always been perverts. I mean, there's also another video of this abortion fanatic who advocates building altars and putting dead fetuses in jars and things of that nature to celebrate your abortion. I mean, really? At this point, this isn't about just a financial issue where I'm afraid to push or whatever, and oh my God, it'll hurt when the head comes out. I don't want to do it. I mean, this is or being personally narcissistic. This is when you get into stuff like that. I mean, there's a whole lot of other issues. I don't know, I have no idea what, but leftoidism has to be stopped. We have to be able to say, listen, chicks with dicks don't exist and men don't get pregnant. And these individuals that are delusional have a mental disorder that's been known for many years. I mean, mental illness is filtered through culture. People who yesterday thought that they were werewolves or thought that they were possessed by demons or vampires today just think they're transsexuals. It's the same underlying neurological problem. These individuals need to be taken off the street and placed into involuntary custody until they could be brainwashed into a more normal type of thinking, or kept from harming themselves and others, or especially children. We have to protect children. The other thing, of course, like any fanatical religion, people aren't going to go along with religious fanaticism unless they are so shocked, awed, and scared that the fanaticism seems reasonable. When the leftist practices, and in general, and this applies to other types of religious fanatics as well, are so bizarre and so extreme and so out there that you need a really, really good devil to make it work. And basically, the best devil is an apocalypse. Be it, the Antichrist will take over the world, or, something, or the Aztec end of world calendar, or whatever. The leftists have their false apocalypse, the global warming hoax. They think that if you are not a leftoid, if you don't become a leftoid, the planet will turn into Venus and you will be burned alive. That's their selling point. In other words, well, it's better than having the whole world be set on fire. Of course, the only way you can avert the tragedy is to adopt their ideology and give away all your freedom and all your money. I mean, basically, only stupid people fall for religious cults. They end up, their wallet gets stolen and their wife gets bent over a barrel when they do. But, it's a scam. And if you look at Lord Monckton and you look at, or even Dixie Lee Ray's books trashing the planet, I mean, the global warming, it's a total hoax. And it's very easily debunked. In our atmosphere, our oxygen in our atmosphere is made mostly by microorganisms, cyanobacteria, like, pond scum. If you get a swimming pool, even in the middle of the desert, and you put water in it and wait, you're going to get algae in that swimming pool. You're going to start processing CO2. So, and the ability of nature to absorb this is very rapid. I mean, you'll have to realize that, yes, the human race does put, I believe, 280 billion metric tons of CO2 into the air each year. Billion with a B, metric tons. Sounds like a lot. And it is. But how much is there in total? But in the planet, there is currently 307 trillion with a T metric tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. So really, you're talking about a difference of less than 1%. I'll explain it this way. Suppose you have a fella who has a real high tolerance for liquor, okay, and he can slam a whole half gallon of moonshine and it just shakes it off. 200 proof doesn't affect him. He just do whatever. And he's been doing it all his life. Now, do you think putting less than 1% extra moonshine is going to affect this person and make him drop dead? Because if you do, then you have my permission to believe in global warming. It's clearly not the case. So this brings us to the solution. What is the solution? Well, there's two of them. One, you can go full Pinochet, declare martial law, start throwing leftoids out of helicopters, and take back the media, take back the streets, and just once people come to the realization that you cannot be a socialist. A socialist cannot be an American. In the functional level, it becomes obvious what to do. Suspend habeas corpus and put it down. I mean, this is an example of mass formation psychosis and mass hysteria. It's a threat to public order, and they need to be destroyed. The other solution, of course, is to peacefully, honorably, and ethically break up the country. Czechoslovakia broke up into the Slovak Republic, the Czech Republic, and the Republic of Slovakia. They just had differences, and they get along great. They're more unified now that the countries are divided. Two different, either solution's fine. Of course, the leftoids, when their policies fail, the problem is they're going to try to go into the more prosperous red state type of situation. We also do have to look at population movement controls. We need to make sure that, you can't just have a bunch of commie bastards go into a normally well-run red state and overrun it. The movement of these socialists and other Bolshevik types does need to be constrained. That way they can be walled off in their shithole cities and, cannibalize each other. I mean, really, these are disgusting human beings. They eat bugs. They're into eating bugs. They're into something females call free bleeding. They don't like, to attend to their personal hygiene. They think it's fine to just leave bloody tracks in public. Some of them have even flirted with the idea of cannibalism to save the planet. I mean, these are filthy, disgusting human beings. We really should not have too many problems triumphing over them politically. The main the only thing they really have going for them is ownership of the media. But that can change. Having said that, Americans have always won wars fought in their soil. America has never lost a war fought in its own land. And we won't lose this one either. If we do, we go down, the rest of the free world, they go down too. And the ZCP is left standing. Remember, the cause of this problem is communism. The Democrat Party is the Chinese Communist Party. And Xi Jinping is the man behind the curtain, pulling the strings. And what you can talk about, it's Soros. Well, Soros is one of his little puppets too. They're the problem. Anyway, this is White Lightning 777 signing out.